Something wicked this way comes as we reach the third game in the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This game was released in the summer of 2004 for the Xbox, PS2, GameCube, PC, and finally the Game Boy Advance. So after the great improvements that were implemented in Chamber, one would think that Prisoner would retain what worked and dropped what didn't. However, the result here is a surprising mix of innovative changes and some questionable removals. Prisoner wisely leans heavily into the design of the previous game, but it ends up removing several aspects of the last game that were better left untouched. The story is once again presented through the in-game cutscenes, and this game probably has the most cutscenes when compared to the last two. Once again, we have our list of cuts, such as the entirety of the book and film's opening, opting to start on the train ride to Hogwarts. Thankfully, the dialogue here quickly catches you up to speed on the main plot of Sirius Black escaping from Azkaban. However, it's never really revealed why Sirius might come after Harry. The game never once mentions that Sirius betrayed Harry's parents. Also, Peter Pettigrew receives no mention until he's revealed late into the game, so hopefully you saw the movie or you read the book. Also, it doesn't help that the entire Shrieking Shack scene, in addition to most of the ending big reveals, are narrated rather than acted out like the other story developments. This happened in the last two games, but this sort of quick narrational recap was used in the closing cutscenes, to get us out of the game faster, but here it's like the developers just got lazy and felt it was easier to just narrate the last major cutscenes instead of using dialogue. Or maybe they realized they hadn't addressed why Sirius was hunting for Harry, and so taking the lines verbatim from the book might have conflicted with that? And in a strange twist here, these narrated sections are now read by Stephen Fry, who narrated the UK audiobooks for the Potter series. And I say it's strange here because Jim Dale, who narrated the US audiobooks, he was used in the last game for these types of scenes, but not here, so what happened? Our cut character for the game this time is Professor Trelawney. I can kind of understand why she might have been cut, since obviously her class doesn't involve spellcasting. It wouldn't fit the design of having Harry enter a class and learning a new spell, so it probably would have just been a cutscene. Her absence only really removes the foreshadowing of Peter escaping back to Voldemort at the end, so honestly, I can kind of see why they left her out. Still, I think the class should have been included just to add more to the game, and if learning a new spell wasn't going to work for this class, they could have done some sort of crystal ball minigame thing to fill the gap. I mean, something's better than nothing. The ending is also a very underwhelming experience. They tried to make it a bit more interactive by having a set of challenge chambers under the Whomping Willow, and this area is interesting in that you get to use most of the spells you've obtained to make it through. However, after you do all that, you just sit through the narrated cutscenes, then you drag Sirius's body for a bit, you ward off 5 Dementors, you get more narrated cutscenes, fight Dementors again from the opposite angle, some more narrated cutscenes before flying Buckbeak and saving Sirius. And I'll talk more about how underwhelming fighting Dementors are when we discuss the spellcasting later. The ending totally removes elements from the Time Turner section of the film. I still think it would have been interesting to sneak around past versions of yourself, or try to avoid them, or even motivate your past selves to move, sort of like what was seen in the film. Instead, the ending can be wrapped up in a matter of minutes. There's no satisfying boss fight here like in the last two games. And I'm not counting the Dementors, as I'll talk more about that in a bit. It would have been best to maybe have Harry and Hermione fight Lupin as a werewolf. I think they do that in the handheld version. Well, we'll see soon enough. At least that would have been another thing to do. Other than the quick ending and the lack of build-up, the game does manage to cover the events from the film. Hell, it even refers to the scene where Sirius breaks into the Gryffindor common room, which was actually cut from the film. Gameplay is the same as the last game, with a few tweaks and changes, like I said. It's mostly built around this new addition of now being able to play as Ron and Hermione. Spells are cast the same as the last game, with you assigning spells to a button, though one button has been removed, as now the B button serves as the Change Character button, and this has always annoyed me for the past God knows how many years. There are still other buttons that are never used on the controller, so why not use one of those? With the third spell button gone, it becomes more annoying to have to keep opening the menu and changing the spells, because you can only hold 2, and in most cases, you're going to need Flipendo. It's the spell that's used for the majority of basic interactions, so you're really down to 1 free space to assign that new spell. There are some returning spells in addition to some new ones. Flipendo, Expelliarmus, and Lumos all pretty much function the same as they did in the last game. New spells are Carpa Retractum, which is used to pull out platforms and jump across gaps. Reparo can repair broken crates. Glacius is used to freeze water and cool down lava. Expecto Patronum is used to harm Dementors. And Draconifers, which now allows dragon statues to breathe fire. And this is usually used to, burn tapestries, although we had Defendo in the last game, so it's kind of a replacement for that spell, I guess. Unlike the past two games, Harry does not learn every spell this time. The spells are divided by the trio, with Harry learning 2, Ron learning 1, and Hermione learning 3, and I think that's pretty much fair. Aside from the number of spells each character gets, there are actually slight bonuses to playing as each character. Harry gets to use the Marauder's map, which appears as a mini-map on screen. This allows him to see hidden passages, though he can't open them. Ron has to, and therein lies his character's special ability. Hermione's special ability is crawling in small gaps that Harry and Ron can't fit in. Honestly, I think it would have been cool to use the time turner as Hermione to solve puzzles, but maybe that's asking for a bit too much, isn't it? Also, in regards to the Marauders map thing, the in-menu version of it tries to label all the NPCs, which, hey, nice touch, gotta give them credit, but sometimes there's just too many of them and the names overlap, and it just kind of looks a little sloppy, so you get some bonus points for an effort there, but minus several thousand for just letting it go through. Seriously, no one looked at this and thought, yeah, that looks like crap, maybe we shouldn't leave it. Most of the spells are satisfying to use, though Expecto Patronum feels lacking in any kind of power. Using Expecto Patronum allows you to control the Patronus to hit the Dementors, but all it does is slightly push them back. In one case, you have to defend Ron and Hermione as they try to break down a gate, and you have to keep hitting these Dementors over and over again, and it doesn't feel like you're doing anything. I mean, it would have been better if, like, the Dementor flew away, or disappeared, or, like, I don't know, exploded, anything to make it look like, or at least give you the illusion that you've accomplished something. The way it works now, it just feels like you're not doing much of anything, and it gets boring to keep repeating the spell again, because you keep pressing the button, guiding it into the Dementor, over, and over, and over again. And that's why the final battle at the end of the game is so underwhelming, since it's just you spamming Expecto Patronum and charging into Dementors with no strategy involved. You charge the spell, guide it in, and that's the end of it. Sure, every once in a while the game makes a Dementor get close to Harry and he tries to drag out his soul, and you'll have to shake the control sticks to free yourself, but aside from that, there's no real challenge here. And yeah, no matter how fast you try to spam the spell to keep knocking Dementors back, eventually, I think it's in the game's programming, one of them will eventually try to rip your soul out by, like, default, so you can't stop it from happening. The challenge chambers return and are much better here than in the last game. Harry now enters the chambers with Ron and Hermione. At a certain point you might be cut off from the other two, and you'll have to control one of the trio for a bit, usually fixing something in the environment to allow the other two to regroup with you. It's a great way to make use of all three characters, and to give each of them their own playing time. The chambers are also much larger and they take longer to complete. There's also different bosses in each chamber, and they have to be defeated with different spells, unlike the rinse and repeat method of the gargoyle statues from Chamber of Secrets. Stealth also returns, again with no invisibility cloak in sight, though I guess it's slightly better this time around, since A, the stealth segments are almost non-existent here, and the most you'll be doing is dodging suits of armor's laser vision. Avoiding prefix is easier since the game removes that weird bird's eye view perspective thing that the last game had going for it, allowing for the camera control here so you can see what's around you. A new type of stealth segment actually appears near the end of the game, in which security trolls guard a hallway. In this section, you have to use Ron's dung bombs to distract them. It's a bit more engaging than just running past them, but you only have to go past them twice, so this method doesn't last very long. Beans return again, and thankfully you can no longer lose beans when getting attacked, so that's a godsend. Fred and George's shop also returns to that extent, this time with specific items for each of the trio, but there's nothing really outstandingly cool this time around to get. I mean, there's a powerful Flipendo spell, which allows for 3 spells to get fired at once, but that's hardly necessary to beat the game. There's also little challenges given to Ron and Hermione. Ron has to toss stink pellets into these weird wall mounts, which for the longest time I did not know what the hell these things were. Seriously, I remember playing this back in 2004 and thinking, why can I target these weird looking things on the wall? I thought maybe it was like Carpe Retractum and you had to like pull them down, but nope, it's just toss the stink pellet in. And Hermione has to find these statues hidden around the school, which is actually pretty fun because it promotes exploration. There's also several mini-games, like catching bats with Buckbeak and owl racing, though neither one is overwhelmingly enjoyable that you'll want to play for long. With Buckbeak, you're just guiding him into a cloud of bats over and over again within the time limit, and the owl racing is slow and tedious, and honestly, it just makes me wish that this was replaced with broomstick racing. These activities can also be accessed through the main menu as well as in the game, although I don't know why you'd want to access them from the main menu. There for you. Honestly, not the best addition to the menu. The biggest negative this time around is in relation to the difficulty, which once again is easy, but is now made easier by the fact that Ron and Hermione are always with you, telling you what to do every 5 seconds. If there's a switch in the room, they're going to tell you to hit it. At the end of the day, they'll probably tell you that you should turn in and go to sleep. And this list goes on and on. And what's really annoying is that they'll usually tell you in a cutscene what to do, only to tell you as soon as the cutscene finishes.
Let's have a look at it then. Show it to me. Come on, show me the Folio Bruti. Come on then. Can he reach that switch and get us out of here? Fantastic.
I mean, I don't have a 5-second memory here, guys. I can remember what I have to do. It's not like the game gave me, like, 20 missions to go complete, and I can't remember all of them. Like, I know what I'm doing. You just told me 5 seconds ago. There are some smaller negatives that aren't really bad, but they're going to upset fans who liked their inclusion in the last games. There's no Quidditch this time around, and no free roam flying on a broom. Yeah, you can fly Buckbeak, but that's about it. And I get that Buckbeak is supposed to be the broom replacement, but it doesn't feel the same. And what's worse about this whole thing is that while you can't play Quidditch, the game still had the nerve to frickin' show the cutscenes with Harry falling from his broom during the Quidditch match. So why would you make the models and render the stadium everything for Quidditch and then not have it be playable? I feel like the only reason why Quidditch was scrapped was because EA released Quidditch World Cup the year before, and I guess somebody in the office probably felt like, they can just go play that if they want to play Quidditch. We don't have to waste time with it. And seriously, I hated this so much when I first played this all those years ago because I knew we weren't getting Quidditch in the next game because there isn't any in Goblet of Fire, and I seriously doubted EA was going to make exceptions. I mean, yeah, I didn't know they were going to also strip out the whole free roaming element, but that's a story for the next review. And I loved the free roam flying in the last game. Yeah, there was no real reason to do it, but it was just a tiny little atmospheric thing that just, it was awesome. The music, the sense of like scope and scale, it was really good, and you just crippled that. And yeah, I know Buckbeak's there, and the music's good too. The music's great too. We'll talk more about that in a second. But like, it's not the same thing. Like, and if you were gonna model a stadium, why? Like, I don't understand. Was it supposed to be playable, and then they changed their mind? Did they feel like they were giving too much attention to Harry versus Ron and Hermione? And it's just, and you think maybe they're going to let you play it again later on, because there's a thing later on near the end of the game where you have to grab the balls that I think Malfoy and his friends have jinxed, and they've replaced them with the real balls or something. But, like, such a missed opportunity. Other than that, though, the game really improves on things that were introduced in the last one. There's more of a reason to explore the ground, since now you gotta look for ingredients for Snape's potion class. There's weather changes like rain, sun, and even snow. So Hogwarts feels even more immersive this time around. Even though, theoretically, if you're looking at this from a logical standpoint, you literally start one mission and it's a sunny day, you'll end the day and then it'll be snowing, and it'll be Christmas, and then you'll end the day and suddenly it'll be the middle of spring. I get it, it's a shortened version of the movie's timeline, but it's a little funny. Wizard cards are also back, and they once again raise your health if you find a complete set, though health expansions are not needed to beat the game, since again, simple, not really difficult. Presentation again is very well done, replicating even more areas from the film like the entrance courtyard, the stone circle, the covered bridge, and the shrieking shack. The presentation is also much sharper than the last game. It still retains the look from the last game, but this color palette has been toned down a little bit to be a little less boisterous. It's most likely been done to match the darker palette that was used in the film. The game also runs the same on all systems this time, so there's not a more superior looking version. Jeremy Soule returns for his third score, and once again, like I said before, he has crafted a beautifully haunting score. Once again, there's a kick-ass intro theme in addition to great atmospheric tracks. I love the music as you walk around Hogwarts and the grounds, and while flying Buckbeak, like I said, beautiful. I'm not having a lot of fun flying Buckbeak, but the music's awesome. Overall, Prisoner showed great improvements over Chamber. It took what worked and improved on it, and removed what didn't work. If the game was a bit longer and had a higher difficulty setting, I think it could have been even better than Chamber, which is why it's always depressing for me to reach this point in the game series knowing how the series progressed after this. The formula was working great, and sure the games were short, but the gameplay loop of going to classes and learning spells and just walking around Hogwarts was awesome. The first 3 Potter games to me will always be the highlight of the series. Regardless of what you played them on, the PC, the handhelds, the console versions, they just were the epitome of quality. Yeah, they're movie-based games. They're not amazingly great games. Are they worth the $50, $60 we paid for them back in the old days? Hell friggin' no. But I mean, it was exciting, you know? You wanted to be immersed in that environment, and these games helped you do that. But it's like, it all just went downhill after this, and that's why I always get really sad every time I get past Prisoner of Azkaban, because I just know I'm not enjoying Goblet of Fire, I'm going to struggle through Order of the Phoenix, I'm going to roll my eyes at Half-Blood Prince, and then I'm going to grit through my teeth and say every curse word in the book for 7 and 8, and I just makes me wish, you know? Things could have been better. Maybe there's an alternate universe out there where the games continued the same way, you know, where EA didn't muck it all up. Honestly, I don't know who's to blame for this. I mean, it could be their marketing people thinking, oh, well, you know, the fan base was growing up, so we removed things that we thought they liked. I mean, what was wrong with this? Were people, like, sending EA letters saying, we hate the free roam Hogwarts, we want to be linear, we want it to be, like, this very tight-knit thing? Because, I don't know, it just went off the rails here, you know? But, honestly, I still love the first 3 games a lot. I'll play them to death over and over again. I have played them over and over again, seriously, multiple times, no matter how short and easy they are. I love playing them every year. That's why it wasn't really a hassle to redo this series and replay the first 3 games up until I got to this point, because literally as soon as I finished Prisoner of Azkaban and I looked over at the stack of Potter games and I saw the next couple of games, I took a deep sigh and, you know, made peace with my lord, and I screamed a little into a pillow, but, you know, I gotta move on. So come back next time to see how the series started to go downhill when we look at Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Thanks for watching, guys.